Hey everybody, it's your friendly fluffy kitty IceCat here. And today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to use this program called Stamppy that I made. Stamppy is basically a way for you to take your call logs and the time from Prankcast for your show, and then it creates a file of markers that allow you to put it into your audio editor to mark out where your individual calls are in the audio file. And then from there, you can actually export those markers to individual files, basically meaning that you can take the call logs and then make audio files out of your calls individually with ease. That'll be a little bit more clear as we move along here, but let's just jump right into it. So the first thing that you're going to need, obviously, is this program called Stamppy. That is what will do all the calculations, convert the time, convert the logs into actual markers for your audio editor. So you're going to want that. You're definitely going to want to have the ability to stream on Prankcast to do a show or have a show already set. And then you're going to want to have a dialer. Right now, Stamppy only accepts Skype, which rest in peace, Skype. So that's really not helpful unless you have old call logs for Skype. Then you can put them in and match them up with a show. Or it currently also works with MicroSIP, which is what we're going to be using today. And that's a very popular program. It has audio logs or call logs. So we'll be able to use that. And we'll kind of go over that a little bit more. But first thing that we need to do is we need to just make a show. And I'm going to take you all the way through this process. We're going to do it really quick. We're going to just do a little mini show. It's going to call a couple places so we get some call logs that we can use as markers. So let's just do that real quick. So let's just broadcast on Prankcast. We'll just go live here. Hey everybody, this is IceCat, and this is a little audio show that we're going to do just for the program Stamppy. And it's just for the tutorial. We're going to just make a few quick calls here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my phone numbers here, and I have 3 phone numbers that we'll call. We'll call a couple of hotlines here just to kind of get some audio recording, get some logs going. And logs. So we're going to call this Kids Pep Talk line first. Let's make sure we're still recording there. Yes, we are. Good. So let's do a call here.
Hi, welcome to Pep Talk, a public art project by Westside School.
Bienvenidos a Pep Talk, un proyecto creado por los estudiantes de Westside School.
Para un mensaje feliz, presiona 5.
Please listen to the following options for encouraging messages. If you're feeling mad, frustrated, or nervous, press 1. If you need words of encouragement and life advice, press 2. If you need a pep talk from kindergartners, press 3.
Let's just do one.
When you're feeling mad, you should take 3 deep breaths and think of things that make you happy. The thing that makes me happy is when, and I think of happy things will happen in the future, like going to a friend's house or a cousin's house. Bye.
If you're frustrated, just take 5 minutes off.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up on that. We got a little bit of audio there, so that's good. Let's call up this Santa hotline real quick. Get some audio from this. So basically, we're just making call logs, is what it is.
Merry Christmas! This is Santa Claus, and you have reached my personal hotline. We have been very busy making all of those toys to deliver on Christmas morning, and I want you to know that your family loves you very much, and so do I. So
And I
be
do too.
good, and don't forget to always listen to your parents. When you
All right, enough of that, Santa. So we'll call next the Stranger Things hotline. Get a little audio here.
Hi, you have reached the residence of Murray Bauman. Mom, if this is you, please hang up and call me between the hours of 5 and 6 p.m. as previously discussed. If this is Joyce, thank you for calling. I've been trying to reach you. I have an update. It's about, well, it's probably best if we speak in person. It's not good or bad, but it's something. If this is anyone but my mother or Joyce, well, you think you're real clever getting my number, don't you? Well, here's some...
Okay, so we've got a couple calls here, and if we look in our call logs, we can see that we called this number, we called this number, we called this number. These are the 3 numbers we called. You can also see that I have a bunch of other stuff that I called previously from today. If we move this out a little bit, you can see I made all these calls today. Here's the duration of the call. It's got call info. So what we're going to do is we're just going to stop our show. So basically we just did a mini show, nothing crazy. So goodbye, Prankcast recording. Thanks for listening. And IceCat away. And like that, he's gone. All right. So we just recorded a episode here on Prankcast. So let's go into Prankcast real quick and grab that. And while we're doing this, we're going to need to grab another piece of information as well. So first thing that we're going to do is let's download this file. So you just do a click on the 3 little dots here. You download the file. Say download file. Give it a minute here to think. And you see that the file is downloaded. So I'm just going to click close out of this. And we're going to get one more thing here before we get out of this. We're going to click on this megaphone right here. And we're going to click on plays. And what you'll notice here is some information on the stream that you just did. And key pieces of information that we're going to want to copy here is going to be the broadcast started time and the broadcast ended time. So just highlight these 2 lines here, and then you're going to Control C to copy them, or you can type them however you want. I'm going to put them in my notepad here real quick, and just Control V to paste them. So we have the broadcast start and the end time, and we have the file. Now we can minimize this, and let's move this over to the side for a moment. And what we're going to do is let's go in our file explorer into our downloads and grab that audio file here. This is the audio file we just downloaded from Prankcast. So I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to just rename this so that it's easy to know what's going on here. So let's just go test, show, for Stamppy. There we go. So that's our MP3 file. And we have our start and end times. That's great. The next thing that we're going to want to do is just unzip Stamppy, because it'll come out as a zipped file. Inside of this zipped file is an exe file, executable, however you want to say it, file for Windows. So what you're going to want to do is just go to show more options down here, and you're going to go to zip file and extract to Stamppy. And I did that by just doing a right click on the zip file, and it brings up the context menu. Sorry, I didn't say that. So we're going to move this down over here. We're going to bring this folder over here because this is what it extracted. And we'll just open this file. And what we see is we have Stamppy, we have the README, and we have a user's guide. The Stamppy exe is right here. If we double click on this, give it just a second. It'll open up Stamppy. So this is basically the program. So what the program is asking for is it's asking for the start time, the end time of your show. You're going to select the audio editor that you're using. You can do Audition or Audacity at this time. That's what the program accepts. And then we're going to load our call log in here, which is the next thing that we're going to get. So if we go into MicroSIP, you got your phone. If you click on the logs, you basically have all the numbers that you called. So we're just going to click and drag and highlight all the numbers that we called. And even though we only called 3, we're going to just bring in everything into this call log. We're just going to use it all. Because what will happen is when we hit export here, I did a right click on the highlighted files and then hit export. And we're going to name this something. I'm going to put this on my desktop. And I'm just going to call this call log for Stamppy. So our call log for Stamppy is here, and we can see that it created the file right here on our desktop. It's an Excel spreadsheet, which is exactly what we want to use. Stamppy can read, like I said, with a MicroSIP currently. It's probably the only dialer it can use at the moment. If you want me to try and add other dialers that it accepts logs from other dialers, I can. I just need to have those call logs to program that in so that the program actually can read the format that the Excel file is in. Don't really need to open this Excel file, but if we did, what we're seeing here is basically kind of the same information that we're seeing in the call log. It's got the phone number that you called, or it's called the name, the phone number. It's going to be exactly the same for MicroSIP. Then we have a time, then we have the duration, and then we have call info. You don't really need to open this. It's just something that I opened just so you could see what it is. So we're just going to close this. And I'm just going to hit no because I don't want to save any changes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 2 pieces of information that we had for our broadcast start and end, which is right here. And I'm just going to highlight the actual date and time of the broadcast without the GMT. Don't add that in there. I think I programmed it so you can add the GMT in there, but just don't add that in there. This is the easiest way. Just copy the date and the time. Make sure no white spaces or anything are around it. The program should still accept it if it is, but just do that to be on the safe side. Then what we're going to do is we are going to select our audio editor. And for this video, I'm going to use Audacity because it's free and it's something that I think everybody can download and use rather than Audition, which you have to pay for if you're fancy schmancy. So we got our show start and end date in there. So we're going to load the CSV, which is this call logs basically for Stamppy. So let's load that. And you're going to go to your desktop or wherever you save the call logs at. It doesn't really matter anywhere on your system, just as long as you remember where they are. You're going to go to call log for Stamppy and just click open. And what you'll see is in this window here, basically kind of the same thing that we're seeing in the CSV file, but it's a little bit different. You got label markers here. You got a start and end time of each call instead of all the calls. So what it did is, even though that we took all the calls that were made on this day, you can see some of them were done at 8 in the morning, some of them were done at 11. It only did just the 3. That's because it only took the time that this particular episode on Prankcast was taking place. So it basically said, "Oh, you didn't make any of these calls during your show, but you did make these 3 calls during your show." So it's smart that way, where it kind of calculates that and it knows which calls to do. So now that we've got everything in here, we're going to export it and we're going to save it. Just make sure again it's on your desktop, and we're going to just save it. Let's call it labels. There we go. And you can name these files anything that you want. It doesn't really matter what you name it as. It's not picky, just as long as it's for Audacity or Audition. Just make sure you select that. So this is for Audacity. So we're going to put this in the line with all the things here. And that's really all for Stamppy that you need to do. But I'm going to take you through the full procedure here. So we're going to open up Audacity. And it looks like my Audacity is not open. So let me open it here. Here we go. I'm going to get rid of all this crap. I don't really want to see that. So what we're going to do is when we open up Audacity, the first thing you're going to want to do is bring in your audio file, which is this test show for Stamppy. So we'll bring that in. And we'll just play it real quick here just so you can see that this is in fact... Hey everybody, this is IceCat, and this is a little audio show that we're going to do just for the program Stamppy. Alright, so we got our audio file in. If you want, you can start doing labels yourself. I believe if you go to like file, it's in here somewhere. There's, oh, right here. Under edit, labels, then you can start playing around with the label editor or add label to selection. What you want to look at is this Control B right here. That's a good shortcut to remember, Control B, and you can start adding them. So if we just hit add label to section right now, it'd bring up a place where we could start adding those labels. You could hit Control B. We'll do that in a second. We want to import our Audacity labels here so that it marks out where those calls happen. So let's do that. Let's go to File, go to Import, go to Labels, and we're going to go to our desktop or wherever we save the file at. In this case, we saved it to the desktop, so I'm going to click on Labels for Audacity and click Open. And it's going to say one or more labels could not be read. That's fine. Just click OK. And basically what we have now is we have our calls marked out. So one thing to kind of look at is it's not always 100% perfect. It starts at the beginning of the call and then at the end of the call, but sometimes it's a little bit off with the timing, just a little bit. 90% of the time it's gonna hit very, very close to the actual call's beginning and ending, and you still have to edit the beginning and ending markers a little bit. Just move them, you'll have to adjust them a little bit. Basically, one of the things that I always do is if I'm calling a place like a hotel, I always like to clip out the very beginning of the call where the people are making their spiel like, "Thank you for calling hotel blah blah blah. My name is blah blah blah. Can I help you?" I usually edit that out so that the location information isn't in that call. And then I find at the end of the call, like sometimes I'll make a funny comment or something at the end of the call, or I'll laugh that I want to add in. So I have to adjust the end a little bit too. But if you just want to do the straight up calls, you can do that. So let's take a look at this really quick. So this is marker 1, marker 2, marker 3. If we just place our playhead over here, and I'm just going to hit the space bar to hit play.
Hi, welcome to Pep Talk, a public art project by Westside School.
So we can see that the beginning is there. Let's kind of go to the end just to see where we're at.
If you're supposed to just take 5 minutes off.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up on that. We got a little bit of audio there, so that.
If you're supposed to just take 5 minutes off.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up on that. We got a little bit of audio there, so I'm gonna move that just like here. Just say we got a little bit of audio there. That's good. That's good. Let's call. All right, so there's our first one. Let's just rename this. And basically what this is this is a range. This label is a whole range. So when we export these files, it's going to take this whole range right here, everything that's in between this mark and this mark right here of this audio, and it's going to put that into an individual MP3 file. So what I suggest doing is labeling the markers here. So we're going to label this. I always do that. Label this marker. I'm going to rename it. And you just click inside of it and type, let's just type kids pep talk line. All right, there's our first one. And let's listen to the second one. So basically, we're just making call logs, is what it is. All right, and we'll go to the end.
Very much, and so do I. So
And I
be
do
good,
too.
and don't forget to always listen to your parents. When you
So what you'll notice that happened here is that this marker is slightly off, and I'm not exactly sure why that always happens. Again, it doesn't always happen, but I'm not sure why it's slightly off. The reason for the pause at the beginning is because the program, the dialing program, so MicroSIP, looks at when the call starts. So the second that you hit that call button, that's when it starts recording. And then the second that you hit the ending call button, it should stop the recording there, but it doesn't all the time. Sometimes the markers get a little bit adjusted, and I don't know if it's something in the calculations, but again, 95% of the time, maybe even 98% of the time, it's like right on where it needs to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust this one a little bit, and let's just adjust it so that my talking isn't here. So right here is about when Santa starts talking. So I'm going to move that right to about here. And then the call needs to end
to your parents. When you
right about there. So I'm going to just kind of put my playhead right here. And I'm going to slide this over just a little bit so that it fits right in the call. And you can slide either the end points or you can just do the whole thing. So we can adjust it that way. So we'll just adjust that there, and we'll play the next one.
Hi, you have reached the residence of Murray. So clever getting my number, don't you? Well, here's some.
I'm just going to move that over slightly, just a little bit here. So we got some editing things going on. So our 3 calls are edited. Let's just quick rename this one. I told you I always do that. This is Santa. And this is Stranger Things. Murray. We'll just call it Murray. I don't know if that's how to spell Murray, but that's how we're spelling it today. Now, a couple other things. I told you to kind of take note of the shortcut, Control B, because you don't necessarily just have to use the call logs. You can also place markers wherever you want. So let's just say I wanted to clip this part. Hey everybody, this is IceCat, and this is a little audio show that we're going to do just for the program Stamppy. So I'm going to go right here, about right here, and if I want that whole thing, if I hit Control B right now, so Control B as in boy, it places the the marker, right? So we see that we got one marker here. And what I can do is I can take this little arrow and I can just move this out. So click on the little arrow, move that out, and it makes it arrange. And then I can say IceCat intro. And let's do another one in a different way. Let's just say we want to clip out this part here. Phone numbers here, and I have 3 phone numbers that we'll call. We'll call a couple of hotlines here. Let's just pick something random. Phone numbers here, and I have 3 phone numbers that we'll call. Make sure we're still recording there. Yes, we are. Good. Okay, let's just say that I wanted to, for some reason, take just this little part here of me saying weirdness, and clip that. So I highlighted this from the end to the end, which you can do. You just click and drag, and it'll highlight it. And then if we hit Control B again, what you'll see is it created a new marker. Now you see that these 2 markers are kind of overlapping a little bit. That's absolutely fine. The system will realize that each of these markers are individual calls. In fact, we could even do something like this, where
Santa Claus, and you have reached my personal hotline.
All right, let's just do that. Let's go from personal hotline to here. Control B. And now we have a marker inside of a marker. So let's just go type it in here. Personal hotline. And one of the things that I do recommend doing is if you're putting all these into a folder, let's just say IceCat Mumbles. And if you're putting all these files into a folder, because when we export them, it's going to export each marker into an individual file. I would recommend, if you have something that you really like and you want it to keep it at the top of the folder, use what I call smart naming. So smart naming is something like I would put an underscore in the front, or you can put a exclamation point, something like that. I use underscore, and that basically keeps everything up at the top. So if you sort alphabetically in the folder, IceCat intro will be at the top and the rest will be under that. So let's just do that with this one and with the kids pep talk, just for an example. All right, so we have everything marked out that we want in our show. We have it named. We have it kind of adjusted to where we want it. So what we're going to do is let's do the final thing and let's export this to a folder. So let's go to File, Export Audio. And on this screen, you're going to see a few things. One thing that you'll notice right away is that you're going to see it like this first. You're going to see it exporting for the entire project, which you don't really want. If you export this, it exports basically the same audio that we just did. It exports the entire audio file, which we already have. We don't want that. We want this to be in multiple files. So we're going to select multiple files down here. And the name for this, since we're doing multiple files, the name for our file doesn't really matter, because these files are going to be exported based on the labels, and the naming of the files are going to be using the label or track name that we made. So make sure that you have multiple files selected, and we're going to split the files based on the labels, and then the names of the labels are going to be our names on our MP3 files that we do. That also is something that needs to be mentioned, is that you can change the format up here. When you start, it'll probably be WAV files. If you want to do WAV files, you can. I usually do MP3 files just because it's easy to upload. It's there. WAV files are a little bit bigger. They're higher quality, better quality. But MP3 files work just fine. And then you also want to make sure that your folder location here, this is where your files are going to be exported to. So set this to something that you want. And I'm just going to put these in a folder. I'm just going to go new folder. And let's just go to exported P3 for test show. And you can name it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter again. You can name it Bob's big old files. I don't know. Whatever you want to do. I like to anal retentive, so I need to have everything looking nice. So I'm just going to hit this, going to select this folder, open it up. This is where it's going. All the MP3 files go there, so we'll hit save. So we're basically ready for it to be exported. So we can just go export files. And what we'll see here is it's giving us a list of all the files that were exported. So we can see IceCat intro, we can see IceCat mumbles, kids pep talk, Santa, personnel hotline, and Murray. Awesome. So let's hit OK. And we can minimize this for right now because we don't need that. Let's find our folder that we saved. We saved it on the desktop. Here's our exported files. And now you'll be able to see what I mean by when you export the files and the smart naming. Basically, in our folder, we now have IceCat's intro and Kids Pep Talk at the very top of the list and everything else at the bottom of the list, because this is going alphabetically by name from top to bottom or bottom to top. But you have the underscores at the top, which means that all the, if these were the top 2 calls, these are what's going to stay at the top. And I do that with with particularly good calls that I have. If a call that I go through and I find in the file, in the audio, it's just so, I'll just not mark that with an underscore. But if it's like really funny or something that I want to put on YouTube or something, I just do an underscore so that it stays right up at the top of the heap. And it's easy to find. And it's easy to find when I'm doing shows. If I want to just play a random call or something, I can just go to a folder in my shows folder and look into that. I'll give you kind of a quick peek into my shows folder here. So let's see here, my shows. Where is it? Here we go. The Chill the IceCat, and we got my shows. So this is kind of how I have my show folder structured. It's quite organized, but I have all my episodes listed here. And then I basically have, if they're complete or ready for a pranks only episode, which means that all the files are separated and I just need to put them into a show that's just for pranks if I want, rather than having the music and everything. I have a whole weird system. I can explain that later. But if we just go into a normal show that I've done, let's just go into this one, Big Rig Hose. This might be an earlier show, so it might not show exactly what we want. Nope, let me go back to a different one. The one where I actually was doing my naming correctly. Okay, so here we go. So you can see that basically I have all these marked out because they're really, really good calls. And then the stuff that's kind of, it's not as funny. I mean, they're still good calls or whatever, but it's just not at the top of the heap that I want to put out. So I have them labeled that way so that everything I want is right at the top. That is really about it. I guess another thing that I recommend doing is saving the timestamps in your folder. So basically what I would do is, here's my exported MP3s. So I'm just going to take this, our original show file, and put that in here. I probably have to close out of this first though. I'm not going to save any of that because we already exported it. So I would put the show in here. I would put the labels in here so that I can import this. This we really don't need unless you're for some reason a hoarder and want to keep it, but I'll get rid of that. And then usually I would just go like this. I'll just call this IceCat's test show. And then what I would do is bring that back over here because it's being a pain in the butt. And just rename this to the same thing. And then rename our labels. Audacity. Might leave Audacity in there. However you want to name this, it's up to you, but this is what I do. Labels for Audacity. And then you basically just have it done. That's it. That's kind of how I clip calls and put things up or use Stamppy. But you can use the labels too without using Stamppy. Like that definitely helps out, but it'll save you a lot of time in Audacity. And I hope you got some sort of use out of this. If you want the program, I will see what I can do to get that out so people can use it. But again, right now it's only takes MicroSIP because that's what it's programmed for. So if you use something different, we might have to work to try and work that into the program. Anyway, I will see you later. Bye. And like that, he's gone.